Hello, this is John from caveofprogramming.com. In this tutorial, we're going to take a look at the bitmap info header. So I'm not going to type this out because it's really long and I certainly don't remember it off the top of my head. But I'm going to talk through it a bit, and I'd strongly advise that you type out at least the file header and preferably the info header as well yourself. Because if you're not used to doing this sort of thing, it's just really good to have that practice. Just typing this stuff out, even though it's a bit boring, helps make everything gel in your head and sink into your head a bit. Perhaps not the exact things that have to go into a bitmap, but the syntax in general. Okay, so the next thing in the file, and again we're going to have to just compile this. We can't see anything new on the screen here, but the next thing in the file is going to be the info header. So we've got the file header at the top of the file, then we've got a bitmap info header with information about the bitmap data that's going to follow after this. So we have to write this as the second thing in the file. So again, I've included C standard in, and I've used int32 here wherever I want a 32-bit type, and I've used int16_t wherever I want a 16-bit type. So you probably could replace these with ints and shorts if you've got 32-bit ints and 16-bit shorts. But again, it's better for portability and just to be absolutely sure to use this predefined type, which is not like a built-in C++ type. It comes from this C standard int header in the standard namespace. And that's guaranteed to be the right number of bits. And don't forget, we also need this pragma pack because we want to remove any padding that C++ might otherwise put within our struct to make it align in an efficient way. Here we don't want maximum efficiency. We just want to make sure that what ends up in the file is actually these particular bytes. Just to go through this pretty quickly, hopefully. We've got the header size here, and that's the actual size of this struct. And if you count all this up in bytes, that's 4 bytes, 8 bytes, and so on. These are 2 bytes. If you add all those up, they add to 40 bytes. So this needs to be initialized with 40, either here in C++11 or when you actually use this header later on. If you're using an earlier version of C++, you'll have to set this to 40. The width and the height we're going to set later on. That's the width and the height of the actual bitmap. Planes, I don't really know what this is, maybe some sort of layer feature of bitmaps, but in any case we're going to set it to 1, simplest possible value. Bits per pixel is going to be 24 because we're going to use 1 byte, in other words 8 bits, so that's altogether 3 times 8 is 24 bits. We're going to use 1 byte for each colour in the bitmap, so it's going to be RGB, red, green and blue. So we set that to 24. Again, this is the simplest alternative I could find that will end up giving us a reasonably nice image. Compression is 0 because we're not going to use compression. That would massively complicate things. Data size I've set to 0 initially. That's just initializing that to 0. And if I remember rightly, at least, we're going to set this later to the size of data that we write to the bitmap file. But it's always good to initialize values to 0 if you don't know what their size is yet and you're going to set them later. That helps reduce bugs. Horizontal and vertical resolution. Again, I found this just by Googling for example code. This seems to be a good value for this. I think it means 2400 bits per pixel. Again, it's and this is a C++ tutorial rather than a bitmap file structure tutorial, fortunately, because as you can tell, I'm not that familiar with a bitmap structure. But 2400 is a good value for both of these, it seems. Colors we set to 0, and important colors to 0. I don't believe either of these two are actually used, or if they are, they're used in some way that I don't know about. As far as I recall, we don't set that later, but if I'm wrong, we'll find out, because later on we're going to use both of these 2 headers to construct our bitmap file. So the thing to do is ideally type that out if you have the patience, especially if you need practice with C++. It's a really good thing to do, and compile it. The annoying thing is that if you get this wrong, you won't find out until you try to write a bitmap and then discover you can't open it. You can just download the source code that I've got here accompanying the video if you want to, but typing it out is a really good exercise. Okay, so that's it for this tutorial. Until next time, happy coding.